Toyota's coming back to F1 and will even be on the grid at the next race, sort of. Branding from Toyota's motorsport competition arm, Toyota Gazoo Racing, will adorn the two Haas cars for the remainder of 2024 and beyond, starting from the United States Grand Prix, as the Japanese manufacturer has struck a major F1 deal for the first time since shutting down its own team 15 years ago. Toyota's joining forces with Haas to be the US-owned team's official technical partner on a multi-year deal, giving Haas a heavyweight development partner and the Toyota brand a way back into the F1 spotlight. Toyota was keen to play down the extent of its comeback, and company president Akio Toyoda even said he didn't want to see Toyota returns to F1 headlines, but that is what it's doing, just in a very specific capacity, and it's not just us saying that. TGR president Tomoya Takahashi has described this as competing alongside Haas in F1, so this is as close to being in F1 again as Toyota can get without having a team or an engine. And while it's not a fully fledged Toyota F1 Works team return and isn't being touted as the start of one, it is a significant deal for both organisations. TGR is a fully owned Toyota subsidiary. Its European hub in Cologne, Germany, which now houses the Toyota World Endurance Championship team and was the birthplace of the Toyota World Rally Championship engine, is a high-tech facility that was the original Toyota F1 headquarters in the 2000s. Officially, TGR will provide Haas with design, technical and manufacturing services and get technical expertise and commercial benefits in return. This provides a much needed boost in resources to Haas and gives Toyota a commercial foothold in F1, as well as giving its motorsport division the bulk of a high-level F1 program again. Haas team principal Io Komatsu calls it a partnership with obvious benefits on both sides, and we have to agree. TGR offers a combination of personnel and technical facilities that Haas sorely needs as F1's smallest team, while Toyota gets a chance to sharpen its tools to help with other TGR projects or clients down the line and to develop personnel. Toyota's put a huge emphasis on the opportunities this provides for its drivers and engineers. As part of this deal, it will fund and help staff Haas's first ever private testing program in an old car to give Japanese drivers, mechanics and engineers real-world F1 opportunities that Toyota hasn't been able to offer for over a decade. TGR president Takahashi said this will eventually amount to a new driver development program. So while it's not a proper Toyota F1 team, and TGR has made it clear that neither owning a team nor building an engine is the plan at the moment, it clearly provides a useful step into F1 in case Toyota ever does want to come back properly following its previous ill-fated works effort. There's plenty of room for this partnership to grow. For example, Haas is even leaving the door open to a naming rights deal further down the line. It feels like a much expanded version of what Toyota first started to explore with McLaren in 2023. You might remember that McLaren announced Toyota driver Ryo Hirakawa as part of its driver development program and as one of its F1 reserves. That was intended to be part of a knowledge-sharing relationship between McLaren and TGR that doesn't seem to have amounted to anything. Toyota clearly wanted more, hence starting talks with Haas. The two sides seem to have gelled more than TGR and McLaren ever did, and the arrangement that's now beginning is clearly much broader and can get even bigger. The Haas model has been slightly refined since it entered F1 in 2016, primarily with the creation of the design hub at Ferrari's Maranello campus. But until now, it's fundamentally stayed the same: a headquarters in Kannapolis in North Carolina, an operations and design base in Banbury in the UK, the Maranello design office and the supply of as many parts from Ferrari as the rules allow, and finally, manufacturing work done by Italian company Dallara. With its Toyota partnership, Haas will still be a Ferrari customer team and use as many Ferrari design parts as it can. Komatsu thinks that arrangement is still the foundation of the Haas model, and the deal's been renewed until the end of 2028. So there's no Toyota engine in the offing, but there's so much more that TGR can feed into. Aerodynamic development, simulation work, parts manufacturing, and eventually chassis construction will all be possible, making Haas's development more cost efficient and more time efficient. TGR will supply Haas with the team's first on-site simulator at its UK base, which will primarily be used to help race drivers, development drivers, and also teamwork with key engineers. Haas will use this alongside the Ferrari simulator at Maranello, which will be used for car development. That's because Haas will continue to use the Ferrari wind tunnel rather than a TGR tunnel at Cologne and keep its design office at Maranello too. This is mainly because it will keep taking Ferrari-built mechanical parts, so keeping those core things together on the same premises makes sense. The Ferrari partnership is not changing, according to Haas, but what's more likely to evolve is its Dallara relationship. Dallara does much of the Haas manufacturing work and was an exclusive partner before this year, but using Dallara is not at the necessary F1 level in terms of speed and cost efficiency. That deal was already reviewed and adjusted at the start of 2024, with efficiency a priority. Reading between the lines, Haas previously paid Dallara a lot of money, as when it entered F1 in 2016, there weren't really any other companies other than Dallara which could have done what Haas needed it to. but the production times lag weeks behind what other teams are capable of, whether that's by producing components in-house or through using better suppliers. Moving this to Toyota would give Haas an improvement across the board in technical capacity, personnel, cost efficiency and speed of production. But it will take a while before TGR takes over more of what Dallara currently produces. For example, the chassis could probably not be built by TGR until 2026 at the earliest. And Komatsu admits it will be a while before all of this pays off. There has always been an interesting philosophical question about Haas, which is simply, is its model fit for purpose now versus when it entered F1? The answer would always determine how much it could grow without a bigger change in how the team is composed, and Komatsu had the same concerns when he took over as team principal. But when he took charge at the start of 2024, having previously been in a senior engineering role based in Banbury when he wasn't trackside at every race, he felt that there were more immediate bottlenecks to resolve. For example, he thought the team's split locations were holding it back because the UK and Italian sides weren't working well together. But after a technical restructuring and a massive emphasis on improved internal communication, Komatsu feels this has been resolved surprisingly rapidly. He admits that at some point location will become the bottleneck and Haas will need to have a more consolidated program. But clearly Komatsu doesn't think that's being hit right now, otherwise this deal with a Japanese company and a German facility wouldn't have been struck. But it is a sign of other bottlenecks being addressed, human and technical resources. This is vital. Back when Haas was doing stunningly well with its extremely dependent and controversial Ferrari customer arrangement, it benefited from several teams having big problems. McLaren was in real strife at the back end of its disastrous Honda union late in the 2010s. Force India entered administration. Sauber was emerging from a long-running financial crisis, and Williams was falling deeper into one, and still a few years from being sold to the owners, now pumping in big investment. As those teams slowly got more competitive to different degrees, Haas slipped into having more disappointment than success. The consensus has largely been that F1's moved well beyond the limited Haas arrangement that was crucial early on. After addressing some limitations with its existing setup, the Toyota deal shows that Haas's bosses are starting to feel the same. It's not going to yield massive short-term benefits because of the time required to do things like install and correlate a simulator on-site at Banbury, get to know how each side works, and transfer things like carbon composite manufacturing to TGR. But Komatsu says that to effectively take more aspects of engineering in-house would usually require huge investment, massive lead time, and a long recruitment process. This TGR deal fast-tracks all of that, even if it's not instant, and should allow Haas to make a leap in time and cost efficiency much quicker. It's fitting that Haas's big Toyota announcement came ahead of the United States Grand Prix, and not because Haas is a US-owned team. It was the 2023 Austin race where Haas introduced what was dubbed the biggest upgrade in its F1 history, having drastically changed the bodywork of its car to try to emulate a Red Bull design, which flopped badly. But if the 2023 event was a low point for Haas and a symbol of its past limitations, the 2024 United States Grand Prix marks the next step in a new era that's already been much more encouraging than many thought it would be. And for Haas to be running with Toyota branding on its cars at the same race 12 months later as it pushes to secure its best championship finish since 2018 shows how much of a transformation it's really undergoing. As F1's smallest team, Haas should be last, but this year it isn't by a long way. It scored more points than Audi's future Works entry and Renault's current Works 1 combined, and is vying with Red Bull's second team for 6th in the championship. Haas couldn't exist without its former boss Günther Steiner, but by the end of his tenure, the issues he had with Gene Haas about how to grow the team were ultimately irreconcilable, and splitting was best for both. Komatsu's job has been to improve where he felt the previous regime had reached an impasse, and using the better results to generate goodwill from the owner again. A much better 2024 season indicates that Haas's potential was not being totally tapped out after all, but being open to bigger changes is crucial, and more importantly, Komatsu has clearly got Gene Haas to agree. If the owner simply doesn't understand that other teams should be beating his, he'll simply answer any question about major investment by asking why it's necessary given the team's performing the way it is. Komatsu's strategy with Gene Haas has been to maintain as much of a dialogue as possible and pick his battles. Essentially, he's trying to get Haas to really understand what success in F1 actually requires. Backing Komatsu in rearranging the team the way he has suggests Haas might actually be listening. The Toyota deal is now a massive symbol of the Komatsu era, but also Haas's renewed F1 enthusiasm and the team's potential. It's a critical undertaking. Whether the owner recognised it or not, Haas needed a lot of improvement. To start working better as a team, more staff, better facilities at base, better trackside facilities, more autonomy and less dependency on others. Some of that has been chipped away at already, some is a work in progress, and some are much longer projects. Haas's present is much more encouraging again, but its future prospects depend on how much joy Komatsu has in getting Gene to sign off on all that remains, how long it takes, and how successfully it's implemented. This Toyota deal is a great start, but a start is all it is.